Day afternoon. Unity is being brought to you and hosted by myself, Amanda, and Jackie. This is an incredible moment just because I am feeling anxious and nervous and excited and everything else in between. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I am so ready to just be here with you. Let's do this, Jackie.
Yeah, this is our first ever episode of Do You Real, which was really, really fun coming up with the name of. We had so many different options and we had a fucking great conversation with our friends on Patreon, just coming up with the most ridiculous names. But we settled on Do You Real because it's a little bit less aggressive of a term that's still getting at the same concept of raw. Like, this is completely unscripted, just coming out. Whatever's coming out is coming out, and we're just here to shoot the shit and share ourselves with all of you. And yeah, Amanda, I'm feeling nervous as well. And we were kind of getting into it earlier, just all of our thoughts about creating this new segment and how I feel like I have no authority to be speaking on any sort of platform. Um, I definitely do not have anything figured out. I don't have any sort of professional setup at all. I'm sitting on my bed on the floor, and there's construction going on outside my window. So that's just something we're going to have to deal with. But this is real. I mean, it's just having the willingness to share this process with all of you. And from my experience as a listener of Dualistic Unity, that's been the most impactful thing, is just your willingness to step into it without having the perfect setup, without having a list of mind-blowing insights to share, because that's not what really resonates with people. It's just the humanity. It's the fact that you're a person, and that's what connects us all together, is just our experience of being like, oh man, like, does anybody else notice that I don't have it figured out? Like, we all feel like we have a spotlight on ourselves. But really, like Andrew said earlier, like, we're all on the stage and all of the spotlights are on us. And so there's really no reason to be afraid, to feel like we're going through a unique sort of struggle, or that there's more expectations on us than are on anybody else. And yeah, once you realize it's all just self-imposed, then you're a little bit more willing to stand on that stage and just be yourself. And that's what we're doing here.
It helps that we are the light man. We're the one putting that light on us, or and we're the ones that put on the most expectations and have the most have the harshest judgments of ourselves. It's no one else is as harsh on me than me. I'm my greatest critic, and I've heard that phrase so many times, but it's almost like it's acknowledged and swept under the rug all at once. Like, oh, we're all our greatest critic, and yet with that acknowledgement, there isn't any release of it. Like, I don't have to do that. Like, yeah, I could be my harshest critic, but I don't have to. And it's just the opportunity is just here, like you said, to be yourself. And I don't know what that means, because that changes so often. I sometimes I'm feeling super motivated, and sometimes I'm feeling super introverted. I just want to be in my little bubble. You talked about, like, we don't have a setup. You're absolutely right. You're on the bed. That seems a lot better to me. I'm on the floor. I'm on the floor of my apartment, because it's like I could have like the clearest wall behind me just happen, but there's no furniture in front of this wall, so that's why it's clear. But I don't have a small enough chair to take advantage of the space, because it also doesn't go all the way up. It's only clear from like the waist down. So I was like, we kind of have to sit on the floor for this. And when we can adjust, we will. But in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with recording from your bed or recording from the floor. There's only a problem with it if we make one, because at the end of the day, I'm still able connect with you and have this conversation from anywhere. And it only needs to be changed if I make that decision. And until then, I'm going to enjoy my my time on the floor, which almost feels like like in kindergarten we like all sit on the floor together and to be like sharing time, like show and tell, or like it'd be reading time. We're all going to sit together, and so it definitely feels it feels very whimsical right now to be in this moment with you.
It's very grounded, very down to earth, very real. And like we could come up with a million different reasons why we're not ready to step into something. And none of them matter. None of them are actually stopping us because obviously we're here and we're doing it. But it's almost like because we're afraid of facing that uncertainty, we'll find any reason, any excuse not to. And I did that for so long in my life. I thought I had to feel prepared. I had to feel like I had something to say in order to say something. But no, you can just talk out your ass. You completely can. And and it's almost more impactful to talk out your ass because what comes out is the most raw and real version of yourself, not this curated perfect version that you think other people want to see, but you're not helping anyone by being perfect at all. It's just by you putting on that air of perfection, you're pushing people away because they feel like they can't relate to you. We have a question here. How do I apply this at work though? And my job might depend on how I'm perceived. Great question. Um, you just have to not not take it as seriously. Maybe I don't know, like you can conform to expectations because that's just one option available to you. And you don't have to limit yourself fully to those expectations or say like if you don't meet them that means something about you because nothing that we ever do means anything about us. But anyways, I feel like I'm just going in circles here. I'm gonna pass that to Amanda. What do you think about this question, Amanda? Let's work together on this. Tag team, tag.
Absolutely. I've got the ball, dribble a little bit. No. Hey, everybody. Hey, Jazz. Hey, AJ. So, this question is something that I have answered in different ways over my professional adventures. And it always just seemed like a costume that was a tool. And so a lot of my experience has been in the corporate world, and so wearing a certain business attire, doing your hair, acting in certain ways, did seem to get results. It did help me climb the ladder a little faster, being able to look like a certain type of worker that they wanted to promote. So, but it never felt like it was really me. It always just felt like I was just playing a game and playing a role, and this was just the avenue to unlock another level for this character. And when I got out of work, we took off the blazer, we put on the sneakers, we went to the party, and we were embracing a different side of ourselves. And so I never felt like when I was at work that was me being fake. When I'm in my blazer, when I'm in the board meeting, when I've got my presentation, when I am telling you this, that, and the other, and breaking down my bullet points and saying it in all the typical corporate jargon that you would normally use, that was just the role that I was playing for that moment, for that play, for the work play. And then I exit stage right, and we forget about that character, and we pick up another costume, and we're off on another play. Action, take one. So for me, it never felt like I needed to be that off the clock. It just was another hat, another role. But some people feel like they need to know how people perceive them, and it's like you'll never know. Even when I'm getting promotions, even when my boss is telling me that he's happy with me or she's happy with me, that's not the totality of their opinion about me. They, and in one moment they like me, in another moment I annoy them, in another moment they could get rid of me, in another moment they can't live without me. They feel all those things for me. And so I'm not going to get caught up in one of their perceptions of me, because their perceptions of me are going to change. But I can still play the character and use it as I need to, and then clock out, forget about work, and then focus on my life, because that's my priority.
I like that, Amanda, like the analogy of just playing a part. And there are a lot of different situations where you have to put on different hats, but you don't have to always wear that hat to be the person that wears that hat in one scenario. Like for me, I'm thinking about like being a yoga teacher, and there's so many images about what a yoga teacher is. And I do think to some extent, like when you're in the role of a yoga teacher, if you're standing in front of a class, you do have to maintain a sense of like, people are there to relax. So you're not going to go in there and be like, downward dog, like all intense. And like to some extent, you can conform to people's expectations of you in that moment just because it's what is best for everybody in that situation. And you can play the calm music and you can talk about yogic concepts or whatever, but then you can get out of the class and you can get in your car and you can put on Chief Keef and like and you can rap and you can like you to be you're not just one thing. And in certain situations you have to play certain roles and get on all fours, bitches. Literally. Tabletop, ass to the sky.
A single position.
Oh my god. Uh, hey, there is actually this yoga teacher that I'm following on Instagram, and he cracks me up because he's like, "All right, fuckers, take a deep fucking inhale and exhale. Fuck, release all your fucks." It's so like the antithesis of that calm, serene, peaceful person, but none of us are just one dimensional like that. Like I can be that in one situation and I can be in the mosh pit later that night, you know? And we don't have to feel like we have to limit ourselves to just acting in that certain way in order to fill that role, you know? Different hats for different parts.
Yeah, it feels like that feels more natural to me than thinking that I can just be one role all the time. Because I've tried to do that, and that felt like sticking a square peg in a round hole, and it's just like it just doesn't work. Oh my goodness. And I am loving our chat. It's get on all four, bitches. I was like, geez. I was like, you know, at least hope that there's loot. We hope that there's loot when it's a little rough, but you can still make it work. I I I feel stifled by the office dress code. So the office dress code is, for the most part, pretty much just buttoned up, covered up. You know, you're not showing too much skin, and it's not too casual. And and uh, and there are small ways that you can make the dress code kind of work for you. Like you could wear funky socks underneath your suits. You could wear a belt that has a very unique buckle. You know, like a belt buckle that says the word cock and has a picture of a rooster on it. You know, like maybe you might not get away with that belt buckle, but you know what I mean. Like you could find ways to. You could have fun suspenders. You could have a button up polos that have cool prints on them with like pineapples on them, or they could have pineapples with sunglasses, and that's underneath your blazer. So there are ways that you can um, make the office dress code a little more reflective of your current personality. Because if I look back to my wardrobe has changed as often as my personalities do, because I don't really dress the body just to dress the body. I usually dress based on how I'm feeling. And so I will dress in the character that I feel like looking like. And so dressing up for me has always felt like being my own Barbie. And there's Safari Barbie, there is dentist Barbie, there is flight attendant Barbie. There you could be whatever you want. So even at work, there's fun ways that you can take the dress code and still apply to the rules, but find ways to make it more unique, more reflective of who you are.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, for my job, I have to wear some pretty fucking boring shit. I have to wear it's like black jeans and a denim shirt. And that's so boring to me. So, yeah, like Amanda was saying, I make it my own with hairstyles, with doing my makeup, with jewelry, like wearing funky earrings. I have a coworker that wears these cock earrings. They're chickens. They're chickens wearing red boots. And I love that so much. Like there's always ways that you can have fun with the structure. You don't have to see the structure as like a wet blanket over the fire of your personality, it's not. There's ways that you can incorporate that and have fun with it at the same time. And also, you don't I think a lot of people only feel themselves when they're wearing their costume because we have an idea of who we are, of our identity. Like there are people that identify as being like emo or whatever. They have to wear all black, or else they don't feel like themselves. But the idea, like, no, the idea of you being you is just, you can't lose that. It's inherent to who you are. And no matter what you're wearing, you're still yourself. And so it's not about the wrapper you're in. It's not about the suit you're wearing. Because you're just you regardless. And yeah, so you can find little ways to spice it up, but also you're just as much you in the most boring, bland fit you could ever imagine.
Absolutely. I always joke that if I ever was in a straight jacket, I'd bedazzle it. And like bedazzle like with my mouth. I'd find a way. I'd be like all strapped up and I'd find a way like get the glitter and just put it. I was like, I would find a way. I would find a way to make that fucking jacket my jacket. It's already my jacket. We're spending so much one-on-one time together. We might as well dress it up. But I in the comments, it was someone mentioned, I always feel an underlying fear of losing my job. And I think that's something that all of us can relate to. Um, and the first thing that came to mind was that there is no job security. Whether you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a new business, or you're working at a company and you've been there for 5 years, like that company could get bought out by someone else and then everybody could get laid off, right? So you've been doing an excellent job. You have been getting to work on time. You've been doing well with your projects, keeping your boss happy, interacting well with your coworkers, going to after work events, and then the company gets bought out by someone else and you all get laid off. There was nothing you could have done. There was absolutely nothing that you could have done to not lose your job in that particular instance. And so that example always reminds me that there is no security because there is no guarantee that the company, that the industry, that the position I'm in, that that there's no guarantee that any of that will be there tomorrow or in 1 year or 5 years or however many years. So the best thing that I can do is relax, pay attention at work, and stay there as long as I want to, as long while it's available. And if it doesn't become available, then I'm gonna have to pivot. I'm gonna have to change gears. But there was never a guarantee, whether I do a good job or not, that the company would be there in 1 month or 1 year. So in my mind, there is no such thing as job security. So losing a job doesn't really feel like something I'm trying to avoid. It just always seems like the job could be unavailable, but so could I. I could leave this job at any point and suit me better.
Yeah, I think this question comes down to an assumption that being in this job is the best thing for you long term. And the reality is that we don't know what's best for us in any given situation. There have been so many times where I was like, this is it. Once I'm here, I'll be happy. And that was just based on an idea of what this was, what I am, what the ideal version of my future would be. And what I came to find out was it wasn't all it was I made it out to be. You know, every situation that you're in is going to be just as much positive and just as much negative, you know? So you're in this job right now, and I feel like the reason that you're afraid of losing it is just because that's what you know right now. And if you were to lose that job, you would be thrown into an ocean of uncertainty. But the thing is, as Amanda was saying, you're already in that uncertainty. Like, no matter how well you perform your job, the company could go under. And there's nothing that you can do about that. And yeah, that's scary, but you've always figured it out, you know? Like, I guarantee there have been thousands, millions of things in your life. Literally every second of your life, honestly, is something that you didn't expect to happen. Because how could you? How could you know how it was going to turn out? You can't see the future. At least I can't. Um, so you've never known, and you made it this far. So you can trust yourself. You can just trust that, you know, if you lose your job, there's millions of other jobs out there, and you might find something that you like a lot more. Or you know, the experience of losing your job, even if it's horrible at first, it could be an opportunity for a lesson about how strong you really are. And you are intelligence at play. So you're going to do whatever you got to do to survive and keep rolling. And you don't have to think about exactly how that's going to happen, because it's just going to continue happening, sort of whether you like it or not. That seems sort of harsh, but like, I don't know. There's nothing that you can do to ease that fear of uncertainty by just except just recognize that there's nothing wrong with being afraid, and you're going to keep going on regardless.
No, there's nothing wrong with being afraid, and you've never known. Like in on all of my best days, I've only been guessing. Oh, this is super relatable. Um, my parents would be super disappointed in me though, and I know that firsthand. Earlier today, we were in a Patreon call, and uh, Jackie, were talking about like how we get a lot of our our influence to grade ourselves and to worry about how the choices now are going to impact our future. And we learned that from school. When you were saying that, my biggest influence was my parents. My mom and my dad were a certain type of way who liked things exactly the way that they liked it. And I always joke that they had like undiagnosed OCD because they were just too anal about shit that I was like, there's no way. And now it's not that they're undiagnosed, is that they had a very strong tendency to false certainty, to false control. And so when I was in school, I wasn't thinking about what the teachers were thinking. I was thinking about how this would get back to my parents and how I was either going to disappoint them or I was going to make them proud. And I made it my main goal to make them proud. And I learned how to jump through hoops really well. So well that like I got nothing but pats on the back. Straight A student, great, knew how to, I was like the perfect robot. I could digest the information and then spit it out on command with or without notice. It was, you asked me a question, I could pull it out of nothing because I spent so much time trying to fit that mold. I spent all my free time at home reading and studying, and because I knew that the expectation from my parents was real, and they did not make me forget it. They were always, school is the most important thing you're going to do. You know, you got to go to school because you got to get a good job, and you're going to, you know, you're going to be on your own soon. And my mother always said, she's like, I want to know that if I were to die tomorrow, that you wouldn't get chewed up by this world. So you have to remember that nobody owes you anything and that you have to work extremely hard, but you can do anything. Um, and so although there was a lot of pressure, um, I and even though I was able to meet it, like I had a real fear of disappointing them. And all in all, when I think back to those years, I think how much I missed from the experiences that I was in the middle of, because I was thinking about how this was a means to an end. And I also appreciate how much my parents were in that mindset, and they weren't really living for themselves, and they weren't living in the moments for the sake of in being their life. They were thinking about life as something to control, something as a means to an end, and and that was a lifestyle that they chose to maintain, that I was choosing to adopt and maintain. And so I know that right now my parents are probably disappointed with me in many ways, and that is really not my problem. I am open to chatting with them. I am open to having conversations and having a real relationship with them, not because I'm their daughter and we have to, but because we're two adults that can choose to have a relationship with each other, that can choose to have a friendship. So if they want to do that, then I'm open to that. And I'm in a place right now that their disappointment doesn't crush me anymore in the way, because I don't let it, because their opinion of me doesn't mean anything to me, but it used to. And I don't know what I could say to someone else so that they could take away some of the weight of their parents' opinion, because that's a very personal journey. And making my parents proud felt like that was my purpose. And if I could do that, then I knew that I was on the right track. But it always felt hollow. Even when I got their approval, it always felt like I wasn't living. So I I uh, I can't say that you won't disappoint your parents, but I can say that you can choose to not let that be a problem for you.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the question, who are you living for? And if you're afraid of disappointing your parents, you're not living for yourself. And I resonate, Amanda, with everything that you were sharing there, because I totally went through that whole experience with school. Like I, from an early age, got a lot of academic validation. I was a gifted and talented student. Like for some reason, I took a test. Like I under like the questions for that test also cracked me up, because it was like different like rotations of shapes, and I was like, oh yeah, I know how to rotate shapes. I'm obviously very gifted and very special and talented. And my parents definitely clung on to that. And my dad told me, like, you're destined for Harvard. If you go to Harvard, I'll buy you a Ferrari. Just like crazy wild shit. And um going through school, I put such a pressure on myself to be as perfect as humanly possible. I like would go to school for 7 hours, and then I would be in like all AP classes in high school, just because I thought like that was what would give me value. If I was doing the absolute most that I could and performing top of my class, when in reality, like I was putting so much pressure on myself to get the grade that I wasn't even really learning any of that stuff. Like I wasn't really learning. It was all just for the end result, the means to an end. And I went through college and everything, and my parents were really proud of me, but it never really, it never really hit the same, because I wasn't doing it for myself. Really, like I wasn't doing it because I was genuinely interested in learning more. And looking back, I almost regret the fact that I was going through school as a means to an end, because there was such an opportunity to learn and expand myself, and I could have seen it from that perspective. But I think growing up, just there's such a pressure to do it right and to get the grade and to be a smart person. And what's funny is that I've only started to feel that satisfaction within myself once I started disappointing my parents. Once I decided I'm not gonna get a big girl job, I'm gonna work in a restaurant because it's easy and the money is better than if I were to do something with my degree right now. And and that's not something that my dad can put on his Facebook and brag about, but that's not my responsibility. And I think, the way that our parents try and influence the course of our lives, it's coming from the place of they love us and they want us to be safe and they want us to succeed in the world. But all that they know to teach us is what they did. And also in passing on to their children the things that they did, it's like they're trying to convince themselves almost that they did the right thing. It's like, oh, I went through this, so you have to too. Even though, like, I would say probably most parents, like, if you ask them, did you like school? They're going to say no. But still, they sent their kids to school because they're like, well, if I went through that and I turned out okay, then probably that's the right path for them too. And so rather than being upset and frustrated that they did that to you, that they put that pressure on you, you could see it like, okay, they were just doing the best with what they knew. But once you're on your own, I literally just moved out of my parents' house this year. So this is very fresh for me in just realizing that, okay, now I get to steer the ship. And this is my life. And why would I live it for anybody else if I'm the one that has to deal with the consequences? And so, yeah, and also if somebody is disappointed in you, that's just because they're attaching their value to you and then also making a judgment about their based on their perspective of what good is, of what success is. But that's not objective in reality. That's just one perspective of the infinite number that there is. And of course, your parents' perspective is going to feel a little bit more impactful to you than just some random stranger on the street. Of course. And any emotions that come up with them being disappointed in you are completely valid, but at the end of the day, it's your life and you have to live for yourself.
Yeah, no, that was so well said, Jackie. That was, it's, if your parents are disappointed with you, respectfully, fuck it. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep because that has nothing to do with me anyways. It's not that they're really disappointed in what I'm doing because of how that's really going to impact my daily quality of life. It's how does that make you look as a parent? Did you do a good enough job that you raise a successful contributing member to society who not only goes to work but makes a difference out there? I made one of the good ones. Oh, did you, mom? Did you, dad? Because at the end of the day, they're not here to live your moment to moment, and they have no idea really what it's like to be you moment to moment. And so their opinion is based on the tiniest fraction of information about your life. And and so to live with them as your North Star is to stay perpetually lost because they're never going to give you the directions that when they have no idea where you are. They have no idea where you are mentally, and just knowing where you physically live is not enough, in my opinion, for you to tell me how I should live my life. But I definitely think that there are ways to just let your parents know that, thank you so much, mom. Thank you so much, dad, for your advice. But at the end of the day, I'm an adult and I'm going to make my choice and live with my choice. And so your advice is noted and disregarded. You know, you can put it in the feedback box. We haven't made one yet, but when we do, you'll be the first to know.
Yeah, we have a question. My brother is a neurosurgeon. I feel like I should be more. Felt. Um, wow. Don't we all feel like we should be more? I'm sure your neurosurgeon brother is looking at you wishing they had more free time, or they had more love in their life, or they had a more creative job. It's like the grass is always going to be greener on the other side. And yeah, all it, our priority always should be on our present moment experience, and not on the means to an end, not on the identity that we eventually can slap onto ourselves. And then we assume that that identity is just going to make us happy and satisfied forever. But that's never the case. The ego is literally insatiable. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be like the tip top of the pyramid. You can be president of the world, and then you would still want to be president of the galaxy. You know, that's not where our satisfaction lies. Like, if you can't be happy right now, then you're never going to be happy when you reach your goal. Because, like has been said before on the podcast multiple times, like if you're trying to manifest a dream life from the state of lack, what you're manifesting is more lack. So, yeah, I mean, I feel you on just the constant desire of wanting to be more. In this moment, I want to be more articulate. I want to be a insightful person. I want to be my idea of what somebody who live streams and talks on a podcast should be, but that's just my idea. That's not reality, and that's actually in fact taking away from my enjoyment of just being here and shooting the shit with Amanda. And yeah, and I think that's often why we look back on our lives and we're nostalgic for periods of our lives, and because we in retrospect can see the value of just the day-to-day experience. But when we're in it, it's like we're caught up in our minds, we're caught up in our expectations, our judgments of ourselves or the situation. But if you can have that appreciation for whatever you're experiencing in the moment, the good and the bad, knowing that it's informing each other, that's the way that you can truly be happy long term. Like, it's not about your external environment at all. It's about your perspective towards it.
Yeah, and I'm feeling like less happy and just more relaxed. Because usually when I think of like happiness, like I am like walking on sunshine. We are grooving, we are dancing to music that is only playing in my head and loving it and fucking everybody who thinks that I'm crazy and just thinking, I'm in a happy moment. But I'm feeling less of that. I'm just feeling way more relaxed. I'm in the middle of cleaning my apartment, and and I and I dropped the spray cleaner, and it just like smashed onto the floor and just like covered everything, and it cracked open so big that it started to like leak, and like it like covered like a good 1 foot 1 to 2 feet of the carpet. And I just was like, oh, that's happening. Like, and normally that would have set me off like, fuck, I've gotta run to get a towel. I've gotta close this broken plastic container. I've gotta move furniture. I've gotta do this. We're gonna damage the wood. This is gonna set me back. My goodness, now cleaning for 20 minutes is not gonna take 2 hours. And none of that happened. And I just was like, this is happening. And I just was so relaxed through it. And I've just been really appreciating that I don't want to be in this constant state of everything is perfect and sunshine and rainbows and everything is fantastic. It's like, no, I'm just relaxed through it all, whether it feels like a walking on sunshine moment or shit has literally hit the fan and the walls and the carpet I'm on the full spectrum, and I'm just relaxed throughout it all. And when I'm feeling like, what, like I'm on cloud nine, and when I'm feeling like I'm at the bottom of the deepest barrel, still there's there's a way to be relaxed through it all when you're not taking it seriously, when I don't need to maintain the happiness and I don't need to run from the sadness, and I can just be relaxed no matter what emotion is presenting itself, no matter what situation I'm in the middle of. It is becoming easier and easier to relax because I'm not white knuckle gripping everything, trying to control my ideas. Because, as much as I would have thought, I would have hated to say it, like, and I'll say it now, I don't control anything. And I've never controlled anything. Even when I thought that, like, ooh, I was being like I'm like a chess player and I just played like six moves, and that's why I got that promotion, or that's why I got that dinner reservation, or whatever it is that I thought that like manipulated, which I actively did, or whether I was thinking that I just influenced someone greatly, or someone, like I controlled the situation. Like, never. I've never done that. It's just that things just happened to work out in a way that I took personal credit for. And that was only to make myself feel better, because I'd rather be the person who controls the situation than be at the mercy of the situation, not realizing that there was a third alternative. I don't have to be at the mercy and helpless to life, or in control of life. I can just be life. I can just be this moment, however it looks, regardless of my opinion of it.
Yeah, and something I realized recently is that I can't control my control. Like, there's no certainty that when I make a decision to do something or say something that I really made that decision, or I just had the experience of making that decision. That's that whole epiphenomenalism thing. And so, yeah, what I constantly come back to is just softening a little bit, like relaxing into whatever the fuck is happening. And I remember this hit me like a couple months ago, and it was like a crazy revelation to me. That's like, when I drop something, when shit hits the fan, I can just laugh and clean it up. Like, I can just be like, oh yeah, oh, but of course. And I say that all the time now. Like, when shit goes wrong, I'm like, oh, but of course. But why wouldn't it go wrong? And yeah, like, there's less of a fluctuation between high highs and low lows when you're just willing to soften, because you're not trying to chase that high of happiness, and you're not trying to run away from fear. And so, like, instead of going like this, you can sort of just ride the wave a little bit, be a little bit more fluid with everything. And I don't know, like, if you wanna have a really crazy roller coaster ride, there's nothing wrong with that either. And some people love having a very chaotic life, and sometimes I like having a very chaotic life. Um, but it's always a choice. And yeah, it's you can always just decide to soften a little bit. And that doesn't mean you're going to have control. And that doesn't mean shit is necessarily going to feel good all the time or always be peaceful and serene. But you can be at peace within the chaos. And I think a lot of people just don't see that that's an option.
We are the chaos. We are the storm. So it's like, of course. But it's really easy to want to pass off that responsibility. And I've been really loving the word responsibility, like the ability to respond. And there's no way, as much as I could want to, I can't give someone else the power or the ability to respond for me as me. Like, I just couldn't. I just fucking couldn't. There's no way. Like, I'm actually the only one who could respond to life from the perspective of Amanda. There's no one else that I could give that to. No partner, no job title, no friend, no government agency, no religion. Like, no one can respond. No one has the ability to respond as I do in my life, as my life. Like, it's just it's feeling less and less like a burden, You know, responsibility used to feel like something that grown-ups had to do, you know, that they have to be responsible. And now it's like, fuck, I can do it. I can respond however I choose. I can change it up. I can surprise myself. And I love that. I love when I surprise myself, because there's still a story. There's still a narrative that I say to myself about certain triggers or certain environments or with certain people, with certain family members. And it's like, no, I don't have to respond in any of the ways that I have in the past. I can respond totally brand new in a way that I would have never expected, because all options are always on the table. And even if you choose the same option, it doesn't eliminate or delete anything else. It's just the fact that you are on repeat. And at any point you can choose to not make that same choice. You can just branch off into a new direction with no idea how it's going to turn out, because you just say fuck it or fuck yeah.
That blew my fucking mind. The responsibility being responsibility. And we've always had that in every moment. Like, even when we felt like we weren't responsible for whatever happened, we were at the end of the day, because we responded as whatever we are, maybe not as the idea of Jackie or the idea of Amanda. And yeah, so it's like in every moment we have the responsibility to choose whatever it is we do. And something I always keep coming back to is that no matter what I'm thinking about, whatever response I choose, it happened. So who am I to say it shouldn't have happened that way? Like, who am I to argue with reality? Who am I? You know, like, it happened. So of course it was supposed to happen in that way. And I feel like I am doing something wrong so many times in my life, and that I didn't choose the right thing to say or do. But that really is just it's fogging my view and my ability to discern on a moment to moment basis what the next step is, because I'm not paying attention. Yeah, I'm covering my eyes. I'm walking around wondering why I'm bumping into walls, wondering why I'm tripping and falling. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm tripped. And then I'm like freaking out and getting all anxious, but still like, still covering my eyes. And, but just coming back to the moment and being like, okay, there is nothing wrong right now. I just am where I am. And until I'm thinking about it, it just is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with just me here now.
No, there's nothing wrong. And I love it's there's nothing wrong unless I decide all of a sudden it doesn't meet some standard. All of a sudden I have created a bar and we're not meeting that bar. Um, but that's just self-created torture. Oh my goodness, I'm putting myself on a fucking hamster wheel and I'm wondering why I'm not getting anywhere. And I'm like, of course, we're running in place. Um, but I love the new fuck it or fuck yeah. Ever since I heard that, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I put it in those words ever, but I definitely embodied that feeling plenty of times. And so, um, because I've done the other choice, I've used the societally approved template. I have used the parental approved template. I have mastered those. I did fantastic. I did all the things that we're supposed to do. We go to college, we do well in school, we go to work, we do well in work, we're employee of the month, we're getting promotions, we're traveling, we're having fun, we're not getting pregnant early because that was the big fear that make sure you don't get pregnant, graduate high school first, and so we did all the things, we checked all the boxes, and still it felt like it was just a means to an end. Thankfully, I'm so glad that I don't use my degree, and I don't really care. I don't care that I don't use my degree because I had so much fun earning the degree. And so the fact that I don't use it isn't like a big disappointment for me, because you pay good money for that education, and so the expectation is you're supposed to go to school and then you use what you learned in school. And even when I had industry compatible jobs with my degree, like went to school for marketing, got a marketing job. And even when I was there, I still wasn't using any of the shit that they taught me in school. So then I was like, what did we go to college for? We went to college for a fancy piece of paper. That's what we went to school for, because I'm really not transferring anything that I actually learned there. So thank goodness that I enjoyed the process. And then now, we're in community engagement, and we're technically in an indirect marketing position, but I'm in an industry technically that I never went to school for. And and that's not an issue for me. That's not a problem, because it doesn't have to be, because I decided that it's not a problem, and that there are no problems other than the ones that I create. And so that's why, in particular for me, I like to have flashcards and pin them to my walls. And they give me little reminders that are like, all thoughts are fucked. It's one of my flashcards. None of the stories I tell myself are real. That's another flashcard. You can't hide your priorities. And so that one has been my favorite flashcard. You can't hide your priorities. And it's, what am I prioritizing? The story or this moment? Or am I prioritizing my opinion of this moment? Or am I actually prioritizing this moment? And no matter how much I want to tell myself I can hide it, I can't, because you can tell when somebody's here with you, when someone's here in the moment, and when someone is lost in thought. You can almost feel their attentive absence, because they're physically with you, but their attention is not, and you can feel that. And but no words have to be spoken. No one has to say, I'm mentally checking out right now. No, but you feel it. And in the same, so they can't hide their priority. The moments that you're sharing with them is not the priority for them. They're lost in the current of another story, and they don't realize that they're there. And as much as you could point it out, that only does so much good too. Oh my goodness. Uh, good choice in our comments. I'm still going to avoid wearing my assless chaps at work, but thank you. Well, it depends on the work environment, because if you were at an exotic dance club, those assless chaps would be right on the money for your work environment. So, case by case basis, people. Not assless chaps are not the problem. They're not the problem.
Yeah, assless chaps are not objectively wrong to wear at work. But just sensitivity and discernment probably is good in the situation. Uh yeah. Anywho, thank you for the reminder, Amanda, because as you were talking, I would feel myself latch on to something you would say and be like, oh, I can respond to this. And so, yeah, thank you for that reminder to snap out of it, because I think so often we try and escape into the past and judging or idealizing the past, or fearing or hoping for something in the future just because we're trying to escape the intensity of the moment. And that can have a snowball effect, because if you're judging the things that you're doing in the past, you're not taking action in the present because you're caught up in this like ball of anxiety, and you're like, oh well, if I didn't start back then I can't start now because it's too late. And then you're just delaying that process even further, and you're making it worse and worse. So it's like, it comes to a point where it's like, aren't you tired? Are you tired of judging and reaching and trying to be somewhere else or something else? Like, at least for me, it just got to a point where I'm tired of my own shit. And we were talking earlier that it's like, it's almost habitual for me to try and create a narrative out of whatever situation I'm in. Even now, like, I'm creating a narrative about where I'm at in this journey of being a co-host or doing a podcast, and I want to believe that there will be a point where this is easy, or that I have all these incredible insights that touch people's lives, and like that almost makes it easier for me to cope with the present moment. But it's also setting myself up for disappointment and judgment in the future if I have a moment 6 months from now where I completely forget what I'm fucking saying, and then I'm like, "No, I should have been a good podcaster by now." But, like, what does that even mean? Just wow. And, yeah, the more that we try and also fight against the process of creating narratives or escaping the present moment, the worse and worse that becomes. Like, the more you're beating yourself up for not paying attention, the less attention you're paying. Uh, and so it's just accepting all of it. It's just accepting whatever is happening right now is completely fine, and that snaps you right back. That's the only way. It's just that acceptance. It's always that, just your willingness to say, fine, whatever is happening is happening. I can't do anything about it. So I'm just here, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna keep letting my opinion of that get in my way anymore.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely not, because the opinions are not required as much as I thought that, I just wanted to make the best opinions, the most accurate, logical, um, smart opinions. And it's like, no, opinions are totally unnecessary because I'm still in the moment whether I think of something or not. I the moment the opportunity is still there, regardless if I create a story around that opportunity. Um, uh, in the background, what I was trying to do right now was create the QR code for the Netherlands retreat, because I was like, oh, we're about to wrap up in like 4 minutes. I was like, this would be the perfect time to have our one QR code that maybe we could possibly share. Did not work. Did not work at all. And then I was like, you know what? We're gonna give this one shot, and I'll give it 10 seconds to load. And it didn't. I was like, this is taking too long. This is taking too long. I'm going back. I'm going back. But I just wanted to share the attempt that, like, this is something new for us, and this is our first live. This is DU Real with Jackie and Amanda, and I'm so excited to be here. And I didn't prepare any QR codes beforehand, and here I am thinking maybe I can squeeze it in right at the end. And no, no, we could not squeeze it in this time. But that doesn't mean that I won't try to do that again. But I love that I made the attempt, and that the goal not being met wasn't met by myself with disappointment. It was just okay, that's what's happening. Just like you said, like, this is a situation. And begrudgingly be like, I kind of wanted to do it, but I'm okay if it doesn't happen. Like, it's this moment is more this moment is full. It's perfect as is. And although an option that I went for wasn't selected, the moment is still complete. This, like, nothing has to change. And no matter what direction I pick, there is no wrong direction. There is no wrong choice. And so it feels every failure is not a failure, but just another attempt. That's all. It was just another attempt, and I don't tie myself to my attempts. And I feel more free to make more of them, to just jump off, to just make that jump, take that leap, and not worry about the landing, because sometimes the landing will be smooth and we'll stick it, and sometimes we will roll and it will be ugly. But we jump anyways, because why not?
Whether you land on your feet or on your face, you're gonna land. At least you know that. So all that you can do, you don't know how it's gonna go. All you can know is that you're gonna be there on the ground with yourself, or standing up after the landing, stuck the landing, whatever, perfectly. But Amanda, when you were talking, like, you were saying it's just another attempt. And even when we do something that we deem as successful, what even is that? It's just an attempt. Like, we're all just here floating around in eternity, and there's nothing that objectively means anything. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no success, there's no failure. It's just, you're here, what do you want to do? And right now, I want to talk. And so I'm talking. And that's all, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. And we're just letting it unfold, and it's happening exactly as it should, because there is no should. But I think we're coming up on the hour mark here, so we might have to call it. But thank you for everyone for tuning in to this first episode of Do You Real. We'll be live streaming again next Friday, I think 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Is that right, Amanda?
Let me double check. I'm not certain. I'm not certain. Let me double check.
Are we ever certain? we'll be on stream when we're on stream. Y'all will know. But yes. Okay. Yeah. 4 p.m. Eastern Time,
On
1
Friday.
p.m.
Yep, and it'll just be on Friday because this week we did it on Thursday, but going forward it'll be 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, going forward, starting next week on November 3rd, 2023.
Right. Well, have a amazing rest of your day, or just have the day that you have. Thanks for tuning in with us. Try and stay present. Try and not get in your way, because you're doing exactly what you need to be doing because you're doing it. Peace and love, everybody. We'll see you next time.